Hello and welcome. This is the special presentation of India Today. Howdy Modi is what entire Houston is going to say on Sunday when Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump meet there for Howdy Modi event. I'm Ankit Tyagi. We'll be also going to Gaurav Sawant, who is joining us live from Houston for this special broadcast. Remember, India Today is the only channel with maximum resources, maximum reporters and the exclusive view on all angles on Howdy Modi. But just 2 days ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mega event in Houston, Texas, the entire city is decked up and ready to witness Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump share stage. The event will also see top American leaders from business to lawmakers attending the event. Here's a special report on how Houston is preparing to say Howdy Modi.
The stage is set for the biggest global event of the year. Over 50,000 people will gather at one of America's stadiums.
Welcome to Texas.
To witness the coming together of two of the biggest world leaders. Narendra Modi and Donald Trump will share stage on 22nd September in Houston, Texas.
The largest gathering of the Indian American community here at Houston, Texas. Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, will be at the NRG Stadium. US President Donald Trump will be a part of Howdy Modi. The President and the Prime Minister of the world's largest and oldest democracies come together.
It is here that Trump will say, Howdy Modi. Huge hoardings welcoming Narendra Modi to Houston have already come up. Excitement is palpable.
Howdy Modi, welcome to Houston! Howdy Modi, welcome to Texas! We're coming to Houston on September 22nd, and I hope you have a great trip.
Howdy Modi from the Boogie Down Bronx. Peace, Nitro from Yankee Stadium, baby.
Howdy, Houston. Get ready, all, to welcome the leader of the world's largest democracy.
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी.
The reformer.
Apart from Modi and Trump, the Howdy Modi event will see the biggest American lawmakers and business leaders in attendance, including US Senators John Cornyn and Ted Cruz, and lawmakers Ami Bera, Raja Krishnamurthy, and Brad Sherman. From Madison Square Garden to Wembley to Sydney, Prime Minister's events abroad have been a mega show of India's strength and soft power. The Texas event promises to be much bigger and better. Bureau Report, India Today.
Let me now take you straight to Houston, Texas, where Gaurav Sawant, Senior Executive Editor India Today, is joining us. Gaurav, very good morning, or should I say howdy, Gaurav?
Howdy, howdy, how are you, my dear friend? All is well here. Indian community assembling here in large numbers for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mega event, Howdy Modi. Apart from that, adding to the excitement is the presence of the US President Donald Trump. In fact, Donald Trump made a statement saying that while 50,000 people were assembling there to welcome Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi, there is more excitement because he's going to get there and he's going to make a big announcement. So now all eyes on what that announcement will be like. So there is trade talks between India and the US. They've been, held up for a number of reasons. Will there be forward movement on trade? Will there be forward movement on energy, oil, gas, a number of issues? Many say these are just niggles. Some people say, no, these are very serious problems that India and the US haven't been able to move forward to. But at the same time, the Indian American community is really looking forward to some positive news because they say this is a win-win both for India and for the United States of America.
On his way back from California to DC, President Trump said that there could be a major announcement in Houston. Could that be trade-related or GSP-related? And also 2 instances of meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi on the sidelines of the UNG as well?
I'm not aware of the particular statement that you are referring to, but since President Trump has made this announcement, you might ask him what it is about.
So what will be that big announcement that the US president makes remains to be seen, but a lot of excitement about India's soft power on display. What is India's soft power? The rich cultural heritage. And there isn't any big dance performance that performers who are and artists who are coming from India. They are Indian Americans who will be performing here. While the Americans see Indians as people who are contributing very positively to the American economy, Indian intellectuals, they're big in the field of science, technology, IT, all of that. At the same time, there's also expectation that there will be forward movement. Now, Texas is known for oil. Texas is also known for gas, energy supply. There is an energy CEOs roundtable that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will have. Clean energy is the buzzword here. There is a clean energy conference that's on even today. I spoke to some Indian Americans about their expectations of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's CEOs roundtable on energy. Let's listen in.
Indian American community in Houston is very well organized, and I would say that they are very well connected with the US political system. And coming from India, the people like us, though we live here, we are the citizens of the United States, but we always work towards strengthening the US-India relationship.
Not only we are excited, but our first generation kids. My son, who's 5-year-old, born in America, he's so excited that our Narendra Modi is there because he hears the speeches as we hear on speech all the time in Aaj Tak. And he say, hey, Modi ji is coming, and he's performing. I don't know too much about the cultural program, but all I can say is that 50,000 plus people are taking this as a celebration, as a Diwali for all of India, that Modi ji is celebrating this event with us in Houston.
I think a big discussion here is about global warming, and he's a leader that's bringing some innovative ideas and is bringing to the table a country that's one of the fastest growing countries in the world with GDP growth and new innovation that he's driving. We expect him to drive a leadership discussion to take new technologies that we have here and bring technologies like ideas like artificial intelligence, digital, and how we can put all of these things together, and a political agenda that's going to drive the discussion forward and build meaningful change here in the world for us.
So I think it's evident. You saw what we achieved just a few days ago by nearly landing, one of the things on the moon. Right.
Chandrayaan 2.
Chandrayaan 2, right. So if we can achieve that, and I'm pretty sure that, I don't know the exact amount spent on that, but I'm pretty sure it was peanuts compared to what Western communities and Western countries spend. If that is possible, I'm pretty sure that the ideas that he is collecting from worldwide, and especially with this meeting with the CEOs here, he will be able to achieve a lot going back into India. And especially we being a superpower now, we have a lot more clout than we had before to be able to implement these ideas.
So Prime Minister Narendra Modi has had Indian American community events twice in the past in the United States of America. The first time at the Madison Square Garden in 2014, I was reporting from Ground Zero, and then again in 2016 at the Silicon Valley. But nothing as big as the one right here at the NRG Stadium, where 50,000 people have already registered. They will be attending. There are another 8,000 who are on the waiting list, waiting for passes to be able to be here. But what's the relationship between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Donald Trump like? Now, President Donald Trump has described Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a personal friend. This is the 4th time they'd be meeting this year in the United States of America. They met in France, they met in Japan. They'll be meeting here at Houston, Texas, and then once again on the 24th of September on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. But what will this relationship mean for India, for America, and as Prime Minister Narendra Modi puts it, together for the benefit of the world? Let's find out.
Abi ki bar, Trump, Sarkar.
So said Donald Trump, then canvassing for votes to become the President of the United States of America. By then, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was already a global trendsetter. And trying to cash in on Modi's popularity amongst Indian Americans, Trump picked up Modi's election tagline.
Abi ki bar, Trump, Sarkar.
Prime Minister Modi made sure that he was one of the first world leaders to congratulate President Donald Trump. In that, Modi even beat Theresa May of the UK. Narendra Modi was also the first leader to have dinner with Trump at the White House in June 2017, when he visited US for the 5th time. No stone was left unturned by Prime Minister Modi to strike that all-important close rapport with President Trump.
During my campaign, I pledged that if elected, India would have a true friend in the White House. And that is now exactly what you have, a true friend.
क्योंकि यह भारत तथा यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स के बीच परस्पर सहयोग तथा सहभागिता की चरम सीमाओं की उपलब्धि पर केंद्रित है, क्योंकि हम दोनों ग्लोबल इंजन्स ऑफ ग्रोथ हैं.
The special relationship that the two shared became more than evident in the tweets and hugs that followed every time they met. President Trump even tweeted that Prime Minister Modi was his true friend. And when the true friend's daughter landed in India, Narendra Modi was at his charming best as he played host. Ivanka Trump led a 400-strong US business delegation, and a lavish official dinner was thrown for the president's daughter Ivanka at Taj Faluknama Palace. At every chance, Prime Minister Modi has gone the extra mile to ensure the smooth continuation of the all-important US-India friendly ties. And since the time Donald Trump became president, he and Narendra Modi have met 5 times till now. First, it was at the White House, June 2017. Then, the ASEAN Summit, Philippines, November 2017. Third, G20 Summit, Argentina, November 2018. Fourth, G20 Summit, Japan, June 2019. And then, the G7 Summit in France, August 2019. The leader of the largest democracy and the leader of the biggest democracy. Narendra Modi and Donald Trump at every photo opportunity have made it amply clear that they understand each other very well.
He actually speaks very good English, we just don't want to talk about it.
This isn't the first community event, the Indian-American event that the Prime Minister is having at the United States of America. Wherever he travels, he interacts very extensively with the diaspora. It started with the United States of America, 2014 at the Madison Square Garden. Then when he traveled to Sydney, he had a huge event with the Indian-Australian community. Then in London, Wembley, and then again at Silicon Valley in California, United States of America. This, of course, is the biggest so far here at the NRG Stadium. It's raining as of now. There is a thunderstorm alert, but people say that is a good omen.
In a true rock star style, he stopped and looked at the crowd that had come to witness him speak. PM Modi addressed the Indian diaspora at a completely packed Madison Square Garden on his first trip to the US in 2014. Amidst the chants of Bharat Mata Ki Jai and Modi Modi, he wasn't just selling the idea of India to the Americans or the NRIs, but also making a statement to the Indian voters as people back home stayed glued to their TV screens, watching their PM become a rage on foreign shores.
अगर आप न होते, हमारे देश की युवा पीढ़ी न होती, इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी के क्षेत्र में आप लोगों ने जो कमाल करके दिखाई है, वो न होता तो आज भी दुनिया शायद हमें साफ सपेरों वालों का ही देश मानती।
In the very same year, Modi Mania was down under in Australia. PM Modi drew thousands to Sydney's Allphones Arena. In a 90-minute-long speech, Modi kept his trademark rhetoric of finding similarities between India and the country he visits.
ऑस्ट्रेलिया एक खूबसूरत देश है।
Australia is a beautiful country.
न ऑस्ट्रेलिया न इंडिया क्रिकेट के बिना जी सकते हैं।
Neither Australia nor India can live without cricket.
क्रिकेट ने हमें जोड़ा।
He marketed his new policies like Swachh Bharat and Jan Dhan Yojana as the crowd went gaga over him.
2 अक्टूबर से मैंने काम उठाया स्वच्छ भारत का।
From 2nd of October, I started the work of cleanliness.
आप मुझे बताइए दुनिया
You
के
tell
किसी
me,
भी देश में आप जाते
in
हैं
any country you go in of the
और
world,
स्वच्छता देखते हैं
and you see the
तो
cleanliness
सबसे
of
पहले
there. So
हमारे
first
देश
of
के
all,
गली मोहल्ले याद आते हैं कि नहीं आते?
Bollywood dancing, hypnotic drumming, and the crowd chanting his name. Understandably, the PM is more garrulous at such gatherings than he can ever be in Parliament. And so, he speaks his heart out.
देश के प्रति प्रेम की ज्योति जलाए रखना, सत्यमेव जयते।
A year later, in 2015, Modi visited London to meet the Queen and to woo the 1.7 million British Indians.
नमस्ते। साल मुबारक।
The Wembley Stadium decked in the colours of Indian flag, thousands cheering for him as he wished them Saal Mubarak. Modi's address at the Wembley Stadium in London was no less than an election rally. The fervour certainly reminded him of home.
Your wonderful and warm welcome makes me feel at home.
But is this just optics, or is there far more to it than the symbolism, than the optics, than the handshake and the hug? On the other side of a quick break, we'll also get you an interview with Nisha Desai Biswal, former US Assistant Secretary of State, South and Central Asia, and currently the chair of the Indian-American Business Council. I spoke to her on the road ahead when it comes to India-US business relations. That story and lots more coming up. Stay with us on India First.
Welcome to Texas.
Howdy, Houston. Get ready, all, to welcome the leader of the world's largest democracy.
मैं Narendra Damodar Das Modi,
the reformer of New India. Experience a unique cultural show. Witness a special speech by the Prime Minister. Let us strengthen India-US partnership with Modi. Houston, play your part. Howdy, Modi, for shared dreams and bright future.
Hello and welcome to an India First special edition coming to you from Houston, Texas in the United States of America. I'm Gaurav Sawant, and over the course of the next half hour, we will tell you about the next phase of India-US relations. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be here in a couple of days, and he will address a 50,000 strong crowd at the NRG Stadium here at Houston, Texas. Is this just optics, or is there something far more to it? Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also often spoken about how India-US relationship can benefit not just the economies of these two countries, but the world at large.
America imposed 25% tariff on steel and a 10% import duty on aluminium products. India decided to retaliate by significantly hiking customs duties. The trade ties between the two nations took a hit, but then the US reaffirmed its support to India's membership bid to the Nuclear Suppliers Group and said it had called on the other members as well to back New Delhi's application. In August 2018, India became the first South Asian country to get the Strategic Trade Authorization 1 or STA1 status from the US. This status paved the way for high-technology US product sales to India, particularly in civil space and defense sectors. India became the 37th country to be designated STA1 by the United States. President Trump lit diyas in celebration of Diwali at the White House in November 2018. He was flanked by prominent Indian Americans, Indian origin administration and diplomatic officials.
Our nation is blessed to be home to millions of hardworking citizens of Indian and Southeast Asian heritage who enrich our country in countless ways. Together we are one proud American family. So on behalf of the American people, I wish everyone celebrating here, all over our country, our land, great United States, and around the world, a happy and joyful Diwali.
Prime Minister Modi met President Trump at the G20 summit, and their bonhomie was evident for everyone to see. In February 2019, right after the Pulwama attack, when India once again raised the call to declare Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar a global terrorist, the US was the first to back India along with UK and France. Finally, in May 2019, the United Nations designated Masood a global terrorist. But the trade ties between India and the US still remain strained. In May 2019, President Trump slammed India for imposing 100% tariffs on American products, including the iconic Harley-Davidson motorcycles. A month later, when it levied retaliatory duties on 28 US products after Washington revoked New Delhi's preferential trade privileges. But this didn't overshadow the bromance that President Trump seemed to share with Prime Minister Modi. When Narendra Modi came back to power with a thumping majority in May 2019, the President of the United States of America took to Twitter to congratulate him on his success. When India abrogated Article 370, Pakistan went to the US and the world. President Trump went through a series of flip-flop statements on Kashmir, till finally he clarified matters at the G7 summit in France.
Well, we spoke last night about Kashmir, and the Prime Minister really feels he has it under control. I know they speak with Pakistan, and I'm sure that they will be able to do something that will be very good. We spoke about it last night as well.
भारत और पाकिस्तान के सारे इश्यूज बायलैटरल हैं और इसलिए हम दुनिया के किसी भी देश को इनके लिए कष्ट नहीं देते हैं. हम मिलजुल करके हमारी समस्याओं पर चर्चा भी कर सकते हैं.
And with this, the governments of Modi and Trump claim they remain natural partners against the forces of destabilization.
the bonhomie, the backslapping and laughing at each other's jokes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Donald Trump met on the sidelines of the G7 summit in France last month. In that interaction, we are told Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited Donald Trump to this event here at the NRG Stadium. Now, the US President goes in for re-election in 2020, and 1 year before that re-election, a crowd of 50,000 Indian Americans who are traditionally seen as voters of Hillary Clinton or the Democrats. Will Donald Trump be able to woo some of these voters towards his side? That would be a big win for him. But this meeting here is being seen as a win-win both for India and for the United States of America.
He actually speaks very good English. We just don't want to talk about it.
It was a picture of convivial chemistry and jovial conversation. The Indian Prime Minister and POTUS were smiling, and it seemed there were jokes to share.
Well, we spoke last night about Kashmir, and the Prime Minister really feels he has it under control. I know they speak with Pakistan, and I'm sure that they will be able to do something that will be very good. We spoke about it last night at Billboards.
The two leaders were interacting on the sidelines of the G7 summit in France. The talks were held amid Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan dubbing himself the ambassador of Kashmir after India abrogated provisions of Article 370.
जम्मू और कश्मीर के संविधान को लागू होंगे और इसका मतलब है कि 35
The US President had earlier offered to mediate between the two neighbors.
भारत और पाकिस्तान के सारे इश्यूज बायलैटरल है और इसलिए हम दुनिया के किसी भी देश को इनके लिए कष्ट नहीं देते हैं. हम मिलजुल करके हमारी समस्याओं पर चर्चा भी कर सकते हैं.
I think this is a very important statement made by the Indian Prime Minister. He has made the Indian stand abundantly clear to all the world leaders that any issue arising between India and Pakistan will be dealt with by the two countries themselves, and there is no scope or reason for any other third country to come in between.
Pakistan Prime Minister addressed his nation that very evening.
ये जो नरेंद्र मोदी की हुकूमत है, जो ये नजरिए के ऊपर जा रहे हैं, ये अगर मसला जंग की तरफ चला गया तो याद रखें कि न्यूक्लियर हथियार हैं दोनों मुल्कों के पास, और जो न्यूक्लियर जंग है वो कोई भी नहीं जीतेगा, लेकिन ये नहीं कि यहां भी तबाही मचेगी, ये दुनिया के ऊपर इसके असर जाएंगे.
This was perceived as a vague threat on the other side of the border. Kashmir and its future got both the neighbors bickering once again. The Imran Khan administration has suspended bilateral trade with India. Pakistan had earlier closed the airspace to all civilian traffic in the post-Pulwama attack. About a month and a half after opening its airspace, Pakistan has threatened to close it again to flights taking off from India. Pakistan Science and Technology Minister Fawad Chaudhry tweeted about the development. Pakistan's High Commissioner to India, Abdul Basit, replied asking why such things were made public before final decisions were taken. He dubbed the move bad politics and sloppy diplomacy.
We don't want to anticipate developments, and that would also not be correct. Every country will take its own measures, but let's leave it at that. We were subjected to that experience recently, and we will put in place systems, measures designed to deal with the issues and challenges that we face. Let's leave it at that for the moment.
2 days later, Pakistan carried out a late-night training launch of surface-to-surface short-range ballistic missile Ghaznavi. Pakistan Army spokesperson Major General Asif Ghafoor tweeted a 30-second long clip of the missile test, claiming it was successful. Pakistan claimed that the missile was capable of delivering multiple types of warheads up to a range of 290 kilometers. The HTAF-3 missile was launched post-midnight at the Sonmiani flight test range in Balochistan.
Pakistan has been indulging in. You see, they have been indulging in these kind of activities where they are using people from their country. They are also is using people outside to create disturbances.
Talks at G7 summit while consoled India, Pakistan on the other hand is resolute to continue to highlight the situation on the world platform. White House continued to monitor developments in the subcontinent.
All eyes now on Howdy Modi, and I quickly want to cut across to the United States of America and welcome on the show Nisha Desai Biswal, President of the US-India Business Council, former US Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia. Ms. Biswal, welcome on India Today. What do you make of Howdy Modi, the event at Houston?
Well, I think that one of the things that makes the U.S.-India relationship so unique and so special is the fact that it is anchored in shared values, shared goals and objectives, and really anchored in the long-standing and strong support of the Indian American diaspora community here in the United States, which has over the past several decades worked very hard to strengthen and deepen U.S.-India ties. I think the Prime Minister addressing this gathering in Houston, Texas, is an indication of how broad-based the support for U.S.-India ties is here in the United States.
The fact that the US President Donald Trump will also be there, would this be just optics, or do you see this as far beyond optics and something substantial when it comes to US-India relations, strategic relations, trade relations, relations that are now expanding to various fields, ma'am?
Look, I have felt that the U.S.-India relationship over the last couple of decades has been on a strong and steep upward trajectory. We clearly have a partnership between the United States and India that is rooted in very strong sense of the direction that we want to see not only our two countries and our bilateral relationship, but really how we look at the world, how we look at a global environment that is rules-based, that is inclusive, and that is founded in a shared goal to advance democratic ideals as well. For the U.S. and India, that means that not only do we have a very strong and deep strategic partnership and security partnership, but we also have a very deep economic partnership, and one that is growing stronger by the year. And I think that this event is really aimed at showing that this is a comprehensive partnership between our two countries, our two governments, and our two peoples.
Within our country, of course, there is some politics that seem, opposition leaders seem to say that one, this is just optics. Two, US expects India to play a secondary role. Three, on issues of national security, US tells India, do not buy the S-400s from Russia, or do not buy oil from Iran, or India's sidelined from when negotiations are happening on Afghanistan. Since you've been US Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia, how would you respond to some of this criticism, ma'am?
Well, first of all, I'm going to speak primarily from the perspective of the U.S.-India Business Council. But what I'll say in response to your question, Gaurav, is that the U.S. and India have deep respect for the fact that while we have very strong and convergent goals as we look to the future, that we have historical ties and relationships that each are going to want to manage. And so neither does the U.S. expect India to be a carbon copy and validator of all of its goals and objectives, nor does India expect that the U.S. will agree with it on every position that it has or every relationship that it has. Those are things that will get negotiated and navigated by the two governments. I think what is important is that both governments at the highest level, as well as throughout every aspect of government establishment, are committed to continuing to deepen and strengthen that relationship. That is what I worked towards when I was in government, and I know that colleagues who are in government today, both in India and in the US, are very focused on that as well.
Because there are also those who say that trade issues between India and the US, it's far beyond niggles at this stage. And do you expect, when President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi meet, there will be perhaps some way to break that ice or to break that logjam and move forward?
Well, I think that U.S. and Indian trade negotiators are working very hard to make that happen. I know that the Commerce Minister and the U.S. Trade Representative, Ambassador Lighthizer, have been in fairly frequent set of talks over the last couple of weeks. And I do think that there's a great deal of desire on both sides to be able to close the gap and have something significant that can be announced. I think it's going to require some compromises on both sides, and I think my sense is that now is the time for those compromises to be made in service of a larger, more important economic and strategic partnership between our two countries.
So if we were to talk in tangible terms, or would that be, something like India gets more oil and gas from the US, lower taxes on perhaps motorcycles or dairy products or mobile phones? Is that what we are looking at, ma'am?
I'm sure all of those issues are in the mix, and I'm sure that there are a few others as well. Listen, I think trade talks are best conducted between the negotiators and in private to allow both sides to be able to come forward with the negotiated compromises that they need to. And so my sense is that there's a very strong momentum to try to get something significant done and announced for when the two leaders meet. And I hope and expect that that will be the outcome.
Because with the US President Donald Trump going in for re-elections in 2020, he would expect some give from India on some of these things. But what is it that the US would expect from India in your appreciation, ma'am?
Well, look, I think we have always said as an industry body that has both Indian and US companies, what we have always said is that when we reduce the barriers to investment for each other's industry into our own societies, that's when trade flourishes. India is in search of significant growth in FDI to be able to fuel its economy and its infrastructure and its growth trajectory. And the U.S. is the largest source of FDI in the world, but the U.S. industry wants to make sure that they have a level playing field. They want to make sure that there is regulatory and policy stability. And they want to make sure that they have access to India's markets and have, the ability to import as they try to build some of a supply chain ecosystem in India. I think for India, it needs to be confident in playing to a global economy and not just in protecting a domestic economy and a domestic market. India is one of the fast rising large economies in the world today. And India has much of its growth ahead of it. So I think that there's a win-win on the table for both countries.
And when Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Donald Trump are on the stage together at Houston, Texas, at the NRG Stadium, in your appreciation, what's the message that's going out to the world at large, ma'am?
Well, I think that Prime Minister Modi, having been elected to a 5-year term with a resounding mandate, represents a opportunity for strong, stable, and bold leadership in India during a world that has a great deal of uncertainty, particularly on the trade and economic front. And if the Prime Minister can convey that message, that indeed India is open for business, open for investment, that he is committed to reforms, and that there will be a predictable direction for India and for India's growth. I think that at this point, the world is watching very closely, and I know that U.S. industry and U.S. investors are watching very closely, and I think that that'll be a powerful message, and it'll allow the deep strategic ties between our two countries and people-to-people ties between our two countries to also be complemented by deepening economic ties as well.
Okay, because the US President believes in America first, Prime Minister Narendra Modi believes in India first. Will they be able to find middle ground at Houston or later in New York?
In a world in which supply chains are truly global, an America first and an India, make in India are not contradictory. They can very easily be complementary, and I do believe that there's a very strong win-win proposition on the table. The U.S. is welcoming more and more Indian investment into the U.S. Indian companies are making strong gains and creating very important investments in the U.S. and likewise. So I really don't see this as being in contradiction, but rather as a complementary approach that can help strengthen both economies and create opportunities for both people.
Nisha Desai Biswal, for the moment, many thanks for joining me here on India Today. So I spoke to Nisha Desai Biswal earlier, and one thing she made very clear: there is trade, so there will be issues. The effort is to find a win-win solution that will benefit both India and the United States of America. But much more on this in the days and weeks to come. First, that mega event here at the NRG Stadium in Houston, and then the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Nishant Chaturvedi, Kripal Singh and I will be reporting from Ground Zero, but that is all I have for you in this India First special. Many thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.